Right then, hello there, my dear friends. My name is Adam Clery, it always is. I have already finished this coffee, and welcome to another very exciting episode of Tottenham doing Tottenham things. This time featuring a special guest performance from Enzo Maresca's gaslighting title challenges. And you're right, yes, I have done better intros. Alright, so forget the steam engine, the internet, the telephone, penicillin, anything like that. Britain's only good export around the world is clearly Sky Sports Super Sunday, and this was another great example of why that is Tottenham's setup in their 4-3-3 that they never ever change from. We'll get to that in a bit. And Chelsea, this is nice. They've found a way to make Enzo Fernandez work in this team. There's not really too much to bore you with in the starting 11s. Like James Maddison was left out, but that's not really a massive surprise if you're going to play 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗓𝗍 in the midfield three against quite a good team. And Moises Caicedo continues at right back in something we will discuss later on. Now, if you did watch the game, or you've so much as looked at your phone since it finished, you will know the story of the afternoon was that Tottenham take this really good 2-0 lead. Everybody's happy, the sun is shining, joy on the faces of those in the home ends. And then, and I hate using this term, they go and Spurs it. But what that actually means in reality is that their way of playing gave them a really strong start to the game that Chelsea couldn't deal with or particularly defend against, but they then figured that out across the course of the match, wrestled control of the game, and Tottenham could not get it back. And you know what? You are absolutely bang on. I've read the comments every single time I use a momentum graph and I say like, I don't really like using momentum graphs, but in this particular case, yeah, I'll just shut up with that now. Momentum graphs are actually good, and this one paints about as good a picture of this game as you could possibly imagine. A very chaotic and back and forth opening exchange, of which Tottenham were clinical in front of goal when the chances presented themselves, but then some big brain stuff from Chelsea on the pitch, figuring out what to do, and just that is an enormous period of dominance, only really relaxed once they'd taken a 2-goal lead with about 5 minutes left. But beyond simply that pretty little bar, I did think the way this game swung back and forth told you everything you need to know about where both teams currently are. Like, we're going to go into a lot of depth about what it is that's so good about Chelsea at the minute that let them turn that around, but it'd be very easy to assume the only reason Tottenham got into that 2-goal lead in the first place was because 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 kept falling over, but it had a lot more to do with what is good about this team than the length of his studs. And if you look at both the goals, they are caused by him just falling on his face to this sort of comedy noise. Yep, something like that. But in both examples, Tottenham are really putting the squeeze on Chelsea in quite a vulnerable area. But in the first one, Chelsea have the ball, it comes back to Colwill, and the objective for him here is to then take the press out of the equation. And you can see Fernandez knows he's going to want to play that forward and beat these players, so he starts making the run out from behind. I think this is 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 here to be able to receive that. But then, and this is a product of good coaching and good structure, he realises what's going on, he puts the brakes on and makes sure that he's actually covering that central pass, and now bang, Colwill's in trouble. He's running backwards with the ball. The second pressure is on his blind side. His obvious pass is gone, so he's got to hurriedly give it to 𝗘𝗃𝗃. And yes, he does just fall over, and that is kind of the most important bit, but he does so because he's backpedaling away from the ball into him is slightly panicked. Johnson's now free because of this cover by 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 to put as much pressure on him as he wants without worrying about being taken out of the game. Tottenham do manufacture that situation to a degree. So, yes, funny man go fall down oopsie, but welcome to the one channel on YouTube where we'll try and explain why funny man go fall down oopsie. And obviously, as well, it's brilliant centre-forward work from Dom Solanke, but they covered that quite well on telly, I thought. Like, he waits and waits and waits on the blind side. He stays where the defender can't see him for as long as possible, and then sticks that big old long leg out right at the last second and scores that way. So you see, it's not just slapstick. Tottenham are good at doing this kind of thing. But just to go back to that accursed graph, yeah, that is not what maintaining a dominant 2-0 lead looks like. Chelsea, once they got to grips with this game, or in 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗏's case, got to grips with the actual pitch, they were brilliant. Now, there are two things to talk about here, my friends. The first one is that Chelsea, in general, are just absolutely fantastic right now, and I don't know why they keep trying to deny it. We are having another Chelsea pool title race. But secondly, and indeed where we are going with this video, is that the stuff that Chelsea are good at specifically highlighted precisely the stuff that Tottenham are bad at specifically. And the thing you keep hearing about this team is that they always want to play their way. They never change for the opposition. Like Jamie Carragher had that whole, I wouldn't wear shorts and t-shirt if it was pissing it down outside thing on Sky. And the thing is, that's not actually terrible. Like having a really instilled, defined style can actually take you really, really far. But the problem is that the difference between being principled and predictable is about as wafer thin as Parma ham. And Enzo Maresca is Italian, isn't he? And that's where Parma is. Also, Cole Parma ham you could do. There is a joke in there somewhere. So the big news in Chelsea land is in the last couple of weeks, they've effectively gotten their dicks out on the table. I'm going to move that. And instead of inverting a defender into the midfield, they are now, I don't know why I'm just doing the exact same thing again, inverting a midfielder from defence. And that now gives them this, and just take a moment to really enjoy that, as a box midfield. Now, I will happily hold my hands up here. I thought Enzo Fernandez's time at Chelsea was pretty much up. He doesn't have the physicality or the athleticism or just the hunger or the desire or the heart, the backbone or the arsehole or anything to play as one of the two pivots. And you don't want him as the sole 10 they tend to use, because then A, you've got to force Cole Palmer out onto the right-hand side. Not ideal. And B, he doesn't have that dog in him there either. He can't really lead a press for you. But now, this absolute masterstroke, in my opinion, I'm really annoyed this never occurred to me, gives you just the best of absolutely everything, because where Caicedo inverting into here, you've got just everything you want from two pivots in these positions, and you've now got him in the front line, but you can still have Palmer and Jackson lead the press when you need to. And obviously Maresca's teams don't press anywhere near as Pochettino's did, so he's just free to be in the exact space he wants to be in and do stuff. And what's the stat, which I clearly should have looked up before I came on camera, like a goal or an assist in every one of his last 5 starts? Like, Fernandez is very good at doing stuff, just that stuff, not the other stuff. Like, just look at the little scamp in this game without the sort of weight and expectation of being required to do all the hard work, like the hard work just being an option. He gets absolutely everywhere, but look how much damage he can do in this part of the pitch. Like, that's where you want him to be. That's what you need to enable to happen without leaving the back door wide open. And this system, just really clever. But this is also a really good idea of why we constantly hammer this idea on the channel. That systems are fun and great and interesting and nice to talk about, but they only get you so far. Like, Tottenham came up against this as a box midfield in their other most recent home game and absolutely had its pants down. But the difference between Chelsea's box midfield and Manchester City's, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, is that individually, man for man, Chelsea's is so much better. Like, you've got proper, solid defensive coverage in these two positions, dogged determination and exploitation of space in these two positions, and a really high bar of technical quality in all 4 players. So unlike in the City game, you can't outrun them, you can't outfight them, you can't outpass them, so the counter-attacks that Tottenham used to sweep up the other end and get all those goals, they're off the table because the individuals are totally different to Manchester City's. But interesting theorem, Adam. Have you got a really convenient, nice stat you can use to back that up there? And yes, so glad you asked. I actually do. If we look at the dual winning percentage between Chelsea's 4 players in the middle here and the 3 that were in the centre for Tottenham, that's dominance, baby. Like, it's virtually impossible to win every single duel in a game of football because the way the ball bounces might mean you go in, you've never got a chance. Nobody's ever totally dominant, so you're looking at like anything from 50 to sort of 80% as a marker of you won your 1v1s, you won your battles, and that's all of Chelsea's players. And not all of Tottenham's. So then, with both the shape and the individuals, and the fact Marc Cucurella changed his boots, nullifying Tottenham's greatest attacking threats, Chelsea could then set about unpicking their system and dominating the game. So how do they do it? Well, my dear friends, and I do hope I've got time to sort of do the production values on this, like put a scary castle in the background and change the lighting and do a kind of suitably sinister noise. They use the power of fear. If I haven't done any of that, this is going to look really silly. The reason you keep hearing Tottenham players get described as naive is because if you do not have specific, adaptive, match-by-match plans, if you're just constantly trying to play your own way, then the vast majority of your game plan does come down to personal instinct. And if you are playing against Chelsea, your instincts are going to constantly tell you to stop Cole Palmer. And what Chelsea did was they sussed that fact out and they used that to then go and win the game. So we're going to leave the Chelsea players on the pitch here, right, but show you Tottenham's average positions across that 90 minutes of all of their starters. Now, it isn't quite as dramatic in graph form as it was during the game, but you will see there is a definite imbalance here across the centre of the pitch. It seems to be weighted a lot more into this area than it does anywhere else. Like Sarr and Bissouma are both over to this side of the pitch. Like Van de Ven's a lot closer to this sort of area. Porro's got the same job as a dog. He's a lot closer to the middle than his opposite number is. And even 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏, who, yes, does play in sort of the channel rather than out wide, he's way closer to the middle than you'd expect him to be. Now, I'm going to leave this on, right, and this graph's going to be terrible because I had to sort of screenshot it on my phone after about 25 minutes or so, right? This is Cole Palmer's sort of opening influence in that match. You'll see he's really struggling to get into his preferred area, and he's doing that thing, we've talked about it loads and loads of times, when he can't get space where he wants, he actually comes out into more of the right-back area, and you can see even here, most of these passes are backwards. He really struggles to get in the game. But then, at 2-0, with, yes, Marc Cucurella having changed his boots, things started to turn, and all of a sudden, and this is the rest of his contribution to the game, from then on, he did start to get in this area. And when he did, Tottenham were in major, major trouble. And all of a sudden, if we put those Tottenham positions over Cole Palmer's heat map, you can see why that is. He has a gravity to him as a football player, and virtually every single player, even remotely in his area of the pitch, whether they were in front of him, behind him, beside him, whatever, were getting drawn into his area because those instincts, as opposed to the game plan, made them feel like they should do that. And just before we look at the goals, because believe me, this is what causes most of the goals, here is how I would best surmise this as an example, right? Now, the ball is on this side of the pitch, yes, but regardless, look at how many Tottenham players are getting drawn towards Cole Palmer in this situation. It does not need to be that many. And the thing is, Palmer doesn't really contribute anything to this move of significance because he is marked out of the game. But the knock-on effect of that is that there's all this space here. Like, it leaves them massively overexposed on the opposite side because everyone's so focused on Palmer here. And it's so bad that even when the ball comes out to this side and Palmer's not in the game anymore, the players around him are reluctant to leave that area. So the ones dealing with Sancho and Cucurella, they are there, but it leaves this enormous gap between the two. And were it not for a fantastic save from 𝗫𝗴𝗍's own Fraser Forster, this enormous gap that this gravity around Palmer creates would have seen Sancho score. Like, nobody even covers across into this area until the very last second. Like, you have to be bearing down on goal to offset the gravity Cole Palmer has. And it's this exact thing that gets Chelsea back in the game, because when Jadon Sancho gets on the ball and cuts inside, this is the area of the pitch he's going to take that shot from. And Sarr and Bissouma are right there. They're yards away from that area. It's pretty clear that he's trying to get on his strong foot to get a shot away. Somebody should get across and get in front of that area, but they don't, because why? The gravity of Cole Palmer. Neither of them instinctively feel like leaving him alone. And then by the time he does get into a shooting position, Bissouma's sort of closed a little bit of the ground because he's panicked now because the thing's actually happening. It's way too late to get a block in. Obviously, it's an absolutely brilliant hit, and you give him that 10 times, he probably won't score 10 of them, but it's a scenario that's created because nobody wants to leave Cole Palmer alone. But the Fernandes goal is the best example of this by a mile, because if you think Tottenham are afraid of Palmer when he hasn't got the ball, look how afraid of him they are when he has. He dribbles in field and 4 players directly get drawn to try and challenge him, with another 3, you could argue, focused fully on making sure he doesn't get through any of that. So it's more than half the Tottenham team, however you want to spin it, are like, oh no, Cole Palmer, I should deal with that. And thus, look at Enzo Fernandez, absolutely screaming for the ball. It's insane he's been given that much space on the edge of the box for a team that are defending this deep and have just, lost a 2-goal lead. Like, it is quite fortuitous how the ball lands at his feet, but look at him, look at Sancho, look at all the space Tottenham are leaving because, I'll say it one more time, the gravity of Cole Palmer as a footballer. And I know I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but the second penalty Chelsea get, the 4th goal, He's going away. He's not going to do anything to you there. He's not going to hurt you in that position. But such is Sarr's like blind panic instinctively about Cole Palmer. He can't let him go. He can't not do something. So he puts in this stupid, naive challenge from behind and gives it away. Like, if that was any other player in that Chelsea team, he won't do that. And as for the penalty itself, did this occur to anyone else?
But you know, chippy chips?
Yeah.
They have to be them chips, and they don't get them.
Yeah, proper.
That will almost certainly have been done to death by the time this video goes out. But I promise, I swear, I hadn't seen it yet. That just that occurred to me on the tube on the way in, and I couldn't stop chuckling. But yes, just to quickly summarise the video for you, Tottenham have this really cool, actually interesting, defined, exciting way of playing, which can directly lead to players like 𝗕𝗓𝗏𝗡 trying to get the kit man fired. But Chelsea are really, really, really good and very adaptive. And against a team that is not very adaptive and is actually trying to rely on instinct instead, they will make mugs of them. Where is my mug? Don't worry, found it. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, you can, of course, subscribe to us here at FourFourTwo. That was a good R roll. Wasn't it? More subs is great. More subs lets us do really fun stuff. And you can, of course, let us know what you think of the video and Tottenham and Chelsea and just anything that's going on in your life. I'm incredibly nosy in the comments down below. And if you're too good for the comments, say it all the time, these are my social medias. You can go and talk to me about it on there. I've not got much else going on. Adam Clery, Clery, X, formerly known as Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. Maybe just Google it. You might even get a nice surprise. If you do that, the FourFourTwo socials are in the corner of the video. The latest issue of the mags is in 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗜𝗍𝗏s and everywhere else right now. But until next time, Enzo Maresca, sir. I see you, you little title challenging rascal. Yeah, and yeah, that's it. Goodbye.